This is the You, Me, and BTC podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Welcome to episode 113. Today's slightly different episode comes from a Bitcoin news show that I helped host earlier this week. We were joined by Mr. Blake Miles, an ex-Green Beret who recently wrote about how the government could be actively attacking Bitcoin with social engineering. We all know that the Bitcoin community has been enduring a certain kind of civil war lately. We also know that the government probably doesn't like Bitcoin. So Blake, a man with unconventional warfare experience, argues that the bickering may have been designed by military specialists using fake social media accounts. Today, we'll ask Blake more about how this could be done, how we can stop it, whether or not we should even worry about it, and much more. Your hosts are TheOneVortex, Dustin from the Bitcoin Art Gallery, and myself, Daniel Brown. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome again to another Bitcoin news show. We're here again Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific talking Bitcoin. Tonight we actually got a special guest joining us, Mr. Blake Miles. How you doing?
How's it going?
We got him joining us. We'd like to talk about an article that he's just written and want to go around everybody and with everybody and see what they think about that. We also, of course, got Dustin here from Bitcoin Art Gallery. How you doing, Dustin? Awesome. We got, of course, joining us again, we got Daniel. It's been a little while, so really glad to see you again. Daniel from You and Me BTC. How you doing, man?
That's right. Glad to be here, and I do accept Bitcoin.
Yes, just like the shirt says. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, he kind of made me jealous. You know, we were talking about before the show. I need to get a Bitcoin shirt on here. I don't know why I haven't been wearing more Bitcoin shirts, but that's fine. That's the way it is. So thanks again, guys. Thanks everybody so much for joining us. We know we got busy schedules and stuff like that, but we're all just here talking Bitcoin for the fun of it, to help educate the public and get a discussion going and help really explain to people what Bitcoin is and what it means. So Blake, thanks again for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
I read this article, and I got to say, there's a few things that definitely struck home to me. I definitely recognized a few of the things that you outlined in the article from being a part of the discussion for the past year and reading Reddit articles and CoinDesk articles and everything. And very interesting stuff, man. It definitely hit home to me. If you could maybe go into a little bit of your history, explain how it is that you went and actually got this information, obtained this information, how you use this information, and then we'll get into the article itself. So maybe a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I joined the Army right out of high school back in 2002, and I enlisted as a Special Forces recruit. So I went in infantry basic, and then airborne school, and then Special Forces selection, and it was about a two-year pipeline training, and then finally got to a team. Did a trip to Iraq in 2006. I was in Samara when the Golden Mosque got blown up. So I did some intel work over there. Compared to a lot of guys, my time in SF was pretty short. I mean, I was there for about five years total. But, you know, it was definitely enough for me to learn a lot, and I probably had a good amount of money spent on my training. So, I got completely out of the military back in 2011 and started going to school full time, then got into Bitcoin just in July of this year. So once I started getting into Bitcoin, just the possibilities of what could be done with it, my brain just exploded with it, going to that fugue state I've heard Andreas Antonopoulos talk about it, that fugue state of losing considerable amount of weight, not sleeping for weeks. Yeah. I've been down that rabbit hole for a while now. So, it's been really exciting, and it's been interesting to learn about something that I can see changing the face of what's coming down the road, getting out in front of some of the chaos that seems to be inevitably coming, and having a buffer to that. So when I started, I remember going this phase transition of being really excited about Bitcoin, learning all about it, and then you start to hear more of these rumblings going on, learning more about this block size debate, like what the hell is this, and what does it mean? How's it going to affect the bottom line of what Bitcoin's worth? And these are the things that my brain start thinking about, and then reading more and more into Reddit, I think there was a palpable change. Like one day when I saw r/BTC, I went over there and I started reading some of the comments. I realized that I wasn't as angry when I was reading those, and it got me thinking that, like, all right, there's something going on. There's just a negative atmosphere that's coming through in a lot of these communication channels, and generally there's no need to be angry in this ecosystem. Like, what can be done with Bitcoin and digital currencies in general, it doesn't seem to be something that people should be getting extremely upset over, but they are. So I started, I just wanted to dive down deeper into where that was coming from. And I started working with 21 Computer and getting into the Slack channel over there. And that's how I met some people over at Bitcoin Magazine. And I wrote an article for ZapChain a while ago called Cryptocurrencies and Unconventional Warfare, basically outlining what can be done with digital currencies in an unconventional warfare space. And a lot of that was related to just, how you can manipulate currencies and gather intelligence and build up human intelligence networks with digital currencies, and how much easier that is than carrying around suitcases full of cash. And just that alone is, it's game changing. There's a lot of stuff that can be done with this. So the article that I just wrote for Bitcoin Magazine was more along the lines of, if I was coming at Green Berets, Army Special Forces, what our purpose is unconventional warfare, to take down a standing government or support an existing government against an insurgency. So we play, we're trained to play either side of that equation. So if I was coming at Bitcoin is kind of like an insurgent. It would be the equivalent of an insurgent group. It's an insurgent mentality that it stands to threaten existing power models and how things work right now. So it would be like fighting against an insurgency. And the easiest way to break up an insurgency is just completely get in their heads, use what resources you have at your disposal, and you start to cause chaos and strife within their own ranks. Then you don't have to worry about them because they're killing themselves. So, reading through some of these Reddit comments, I knew what was coming. I knew, what I wrote was going to be under the microscope, and I would be personally getting some heat, basically saying I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But the hope of what I putting this article out would be is that the communication between the people who have a legitimate interest in seeing Bitcoin or digital currency successful, they start to change their communication from, I wonder if this is happening, to where is it happening already, and how can we be aware of it and defend against it more actively, rather than just being, my feeling is that a lot of people are just being played because they're not aware that they're being played, and it's as simple as that.
Very interesting.
So I think I rambled on enough about that.
No, very interesting. You see, because this is kind of what I was feeling too. Because I participate in Reddit and CoinDesk, and there was definitely some people in there that I think were that I think were intentionally causing some chaos, because just like you said, there's no reason to really get too upset. Remember, Bitcoin is completely opt-in, right? This is a non-violent revolution, and I think that getting angry over this stuff is just not worth it. That's going to defeat the whole purpose. And so we've had all sorts of volatility in conversation and toxicity in the conversation, and I think that this part of it is definitely a direct result from some kind of external incursion, because we all know that Bitcoin is threatens the status quo, right? It threatens the most powerful entities on the planet, and have been the most powerful entities on the planet for hundreds of years. So we know that they're going to do all sorts of different stuff, and it's not unfeasible to think that they're going to use everything at their disposal, every tool at their disposal, especially tools that they're teaching to soldiers every day. the stuff that's well known, proven, stuff like that to work. So I'd like to go around and just get some questions from you guys for Blake and see what we can do. If anybody in the chat also has a question, just type a /Q in front of it so I can see it in the left-hand corner. But so if you guys got any questions, do that. But first, Dustin, I'd like to see if you got any questions for Blake and this article.
Yeah, actually, I did. I had a lot of questions. Okay, so for me, you're gonna have to break things down very slowly because I'm like acquainted with these concepts that are like in your article, but like only in the vaguest way. So you popped up in my news feed because you mentioned the art of war. And so I run the Bitcoin art gallery. So I have a general Google search out for all times the word Bitcoin and art are mentioned.
Interesting convergence there.
You popped up in my feed, and I was like, the art of war. I read the art of war. I'll click on this. And then I saw the quote, and I was like, oh, he's telling me I'm being socially manipulated, essentially. And I'm like, this looks vaguely true to me. And I have all these. If you've ever been to my website, I have thousands of Bitcoin pictures, and I'm sure some of those were created as propaganda, mind control, mind think, group think tools designed to manipulate the thinking and sway it one way or another. And I'm essentially just collecting them and sharing them, so I'm participating that way. And then I had a lot of questions and how I felt about participating that way in my role. And so I wanted to hear you break it down to like explain like I'm 5, sharing Bitcoin pictures and how that could be used to do what you're saying. So explain it to like, you find a picture, you think it's funny or clever or whatever, so you share it with your friends. And I understand that from your article, it looks like that could be used for these techniques here. Character assassination.
Yeah.
Depress positive momentum, right? Intensifying discussion. I definitely have pictures like that in my gallery here.
I would say the easiest way to do something like that is you have to think of it in terms of you have a toolbox. You have a toolbox full of different tools that do different things for different jobs. So if you have pictures, we'll say, like the Mike Hearn is a good example in recent memory. Some people know what Mike Hearn looks like. Some people aren't, but his name is more recognizable. So memes become really useful. And that's like, you have to identify an opportunity, look at your overall strategic objective. What do you want to accomplish? And determine whether or not that image placed in the proper location at the proper tempo is going to satisfy what you're trying to get to. So if you're trying to destroy someone's reputation through a meme, you throw the same meme, the same type of meme about their personality, their persona, repeatedly in different spots.
I saw this exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah, me too. I saw some classic memes. Sorry, go ahead, Dustin.
There was a picture everyone was sharing where it was one Slack quote taken, just one quote of someone in Slack taken out of everything else is deleted, and just that one was shared like 100 times all over the place. And it was and then if you actually found the original with the rest of the stuff, it was like a conversation in which that was just part of the context, and that spread through development channels. So yeah.
It creates that magical FUD term. It just ripples that fear, and that's the goal. I mean, I think that someone was saying something on Reddit. I was just reading. I put out a message saying, "Hey, I'm the author. If anyone's got any questions, I'll try and answer them." I'll probably regret that in the morning, but it's basically I was just pointing out that like the goal for someone that wants to destabilize Bitcoin isn't to pick a side, one side or the other. It's simply to create confusion and demoralize. And if you can demoralize your enemy without putting much money resources, time, or energy into it.
What do you think?
It's easy.
If you had to put a cost on say sock puppet accounts and the expertise you would need to do that and have someone manage that, if you were going to employ someone, what price tag would you say?
Maybe for the whole team, but what would the price be for a whole team to operate?
Then could you measure how much disruption by money and talent? Like in your articles, you mentioned hiring a team of developers, and you could even get anonymous developers. That seems expensive.
Yeah, I think there has to be an alignment of motives, or there has to be an alignment of incentives. I don't think you can, you could hire, you could pay a lot of money to have some really talented people, but if their motives aren't there, then it's not going to be as good. But I'll just admit, I don't know what the cost would be, what the actual resource cost would be of putting together a multitude of sock puppet accounts. But just knowing the logic, I think it would be relatively simple given a good amount of training and time. If you spend a lot of time messing around with, Twitter's social media accounts and JavaScript and programming languages of any sort, you're going to find ways that you can duplicate efforts, write scripts so that multiple things can happen at the same time, and you can maximize your efforts without putting much energy into it.
So here's a question I have about that. It sounds to me that sounds creating a multitude of kind of social and responsive bots that appear legitimate seems like an incredibly difficult task. I mean, with the on Jeopardy they had Watson and he guessed that he in Final Jeopardy he said Toronto. The category was U.S. cities and his answer was Toronto. So he was a decent bot. He made some great conversation and he had some great facts from the internet and he won the game. But to me, it sounds like to make it legitimate and realistic would be a huge task. Now, there's two kind of caveats there that I think make this doable, and I want to know if you agree. The first one is that it's the government, and they have virtually unlimited resources, and we know there has to be tons and tons of things that they can do that we can't even imagine. So maybe that's part of it. And the other thing that I would guess is that when you're online and it's all anonymous, if one of your bots slips up and says that Toronto is a U.S. city, you just dispose of it. Is that correct? Are there other things?
Well, I think there's a difference between purely automated bots and the automated creation of accounts that can be used at later times by either individuals, with intentionally, they intentionally write up whatever they want, or they write up a database of things that they want to say and just put it on, auto repeat, or, actually having a computer conjure up something to say. So one of the comments coming down below is, making hundreds of accounts is relatively simple. It's just you recruit people. You can recruit different people to do different things on a small scale, and you scatter that far and wide, you're going to have a lot of people moving the ball around for you. I hope that kind of answers your question.
So it seems like, it seems like you could just have a few set of phrases, really. Maybe even under 100, because the block size debate is so niche and so specific that I could think of 100 phrases right now that would seriously piss people off to the point that just a few. I would search for a few specific words in the phrase, and then respond with a phrase. So if anybody says something to do with Blockstream, right? Bam, automatically put like, oh, Blockstream
and that stuff's really simple.
Blockstream has captured the developers. We can't trust core. They've captured it, and that right there can start a whole thing, and then you could have a couple responses. So I guess that's probably does that seems like that's how they.
Yeah, and those scenarios are more efficient. Like it's less taxing on your resources. Like I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Jester. He's on Twitter. He like does crypto hacking, or not crypto hacking, but hacking for. He's a hacktivist for good, or a hacktivist for United States. So I support the dude. He's don't know who he is, but he's awesome. And one thing he was telling me is that, or one thing he repeats frequently is that a small team of A players can run circles around huge groups of B players. And the reason for that is like you align incentives and motives and these resources. You can get a lot more done with a small team than you can with a huge team of a lot of people who don't really care or don't really have the talent to back it up. And one thing that was mentioned earlier is I don't think this is so much government entities. Like I would assume that pretty much every major government around the world has teams focused on digital currencies and Bitcoin and keeping track of the space and having intelligence analysis on different developments. But I would venture to guess that more of the effective tools would be coming from extra business entities, like just people playing around in the dark that are operating on behalf of other players.
Baby banks, I would assume, right?
That's what I would be.
Okay, that's what I.
Let's put it that way. And I think that's kind of like the underlying theme of the article I tried to write is this is what I would be doing, and if I had the resources and the time and the talent at my disposal, and I really wanted to, this is what I would be doing.
So Mad Bitcoin says an interesting question. Is it easier to buy your own fake network or to just make your own fake network? Because the comments seem to say that why not just buy a fake network?
Why not buy your own network?
I don't know if that's something that can be sold or it's something that.
Well, yeah, I think it could be sold. Okay. Yeah, it can be like that stuff can be sold, but I don't think it's going to be as effective as if you have some people diving in. Yeah, because arguing this stuff and trying to push the two sides of a debate into each other and to make them antagonistic toward each other, it requires a degree of planning and strategic thought. And just firing and forget, I would say, is less likely in most cases. But I think there's probably a lot of scenarios where it could be really effective.
Could I question that?
Yeah.
How do we know that is not that all the wacko accusing each other and vitriol isn't actually normal human interaction, and we've just never seen it before in this type of way because the tools weren't present, and since their money is at stake, it's a new weird space where they become emotional over nonsense, like they're becoming emotional over a specific line of code which they don't have a great understanding of, but they've got tens of thousands, $1 million tied up in all of a sudden, and so they write fanatically, and then they throw $500 at a bot guy who puts out a bunch of stuff for a month saying, oh, this is bad, that is good, he's bad. And that's just not the normal human emotional response, rather than organized. Because I understand the idea of organized behavior, how it could be done.
Well, let me say something.
It seems like it totally could be done, but I just don't know that what we see now isn't just natural human arguments taking place.
I definitely want to say something that I want to hear from Blake, but on that, but because this is what I keep questioning. Like, think about the people that are talking about Bitcoin and stuff, right? These are super intelligent people, programmers, tech people, usually traditionally happy people, right? Because obviously tech
Oh,
jobs.
no. What are you talking about? The devs talk nasty to each other all the time. Like, if you read like the devs chat back and forth,
maybe friends and friends, but I'm talking about actual just a developer, talking to another smart person or another programmer. In general, right? There's always been like a respect. I mean, the whole community.
No. Some of those devs have zero respect. They have negative respect scores with each other, and all they do is insult each other. And that's all they've done from day one.
Well, okay. Well, let's see what Blake says.
See, that's what I'm saying. Well, is like there's hostility between them since the beginning.
I don't think that there's enough to create this type of toxicity to make the debate go on for this long to create this amount of negativity. But go ahead, Blake. What do you think?
I would agree that it doesn't seem like it would be possible to organically, for that antagonism to organically sustain itself. And I think, but
it's only a short time. This has only been a few years here of the conflict, right?
Well, like the conflicts you're talking about between the devs, like so, I'd say they have to start back at the beginning. Like you can trace the roots of disagreements back to the foundations of things, and I'm sure if you dive down deep enough, you could find them in Bitcoin. But like with the devs, like one thing you would do is you start to do personality profiles on all the key players in the ecosystem and find out who their positive, neutral, and negative relationships are, and those are the things you can work to exploit. And if you go after them hard enough, you can start to cause bigger fractures, or you can decay existing relationships if it suits your ends. I mean, like all this, none of this stuff is new. It's just being applied effectively in this ecosystem. I think it's kind of like apparent. Like this stuff happens all the time in the political debates, and Republican. This is just Republican Democrat going back and forth, but it's just playing out in a different field. And I think it is a big part of the emotion. And the ability to appeal the emotion is because money is directly tied to it. I think that's a really important component.
Yeah, I suppose that could definitely be a reason why you didn't see crazy fights like this over TCP or TCP/IP or back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s and stuff, because it wasn't money, and this is money. So I guess for sure, naturally, this is going to trigger a different kind of debate, right? Possibly, I guess, a more emotionally triggered debate. There was of course the fighting over TCP/IP. Obviously, the whole 40 telecom companies trying to create X25 to
maybe they wrote.
But I'm saying there was not. I don't know if there was the kind of anger that we see in the block size debate.
And there wasn't the speed of communication and the cheapness of the communication at that time either.
At the time, so the debate couldn't have gotten very large. But now with we're living in a world now with unlimited communication and everybody's got 1080p streaming from their freaking phone. It definitely seems like that's also part of the reason why the negativity can proliferate so much. But it should also be the reason why positivity and sound reasoning should eventually shine through and come through. And this is why we have articles created by yourself to hopefully shine light on these types of debates, just a little bit of extra light to kind of take a step back and be like, put yourself out of the small block size, big block size for a second, and take a 10,000 foot view and just look over and see, okay, what does this team have to gain? What does this team have to gain? And why are there teams at all? And what's the differences between these teams? And I guess you can start to really, put a picture together.
Are you tired of Bitcoin dice and ready for something different? Try LuckyBit, the original falling coin game, at luckybee.it. It's the most exciting Bitcoin game on the web. You can bet on 5 different payout lines and win up to 999 times your bet. You can even use their faucet to get some free Bitcoin. Dice is boring. Play different at LuckyBit. Check it out at luckybee.it.
I think I don't think there's any question about it that it's human nature to just bitch a lot. I mean, to some extent. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is a natural thing, but that doesn't mean that any opponents aren't capitalizing on that. and digging into people's values and both positive and negative, and amplifying those to cause disruption and break things apart. So I think it can kind of be both. It can both be natural and provoked at the same time.
For sure. That makes sense.
And that's the judo concept, that you take your opponent's energies and use it against them.
So what does the art of war say we're supposed to do?
I thought that was Aikido.
Maybe it is Aikido. Yeah, you're right.
What is the defense maneuver here?
The biggest defense is being aware that it's happening and trying to plan out.
Education.
The education is a big part of it for the landscape, the human landscape. There's going to be key players that have to play roles that it's a lot like a chessboard. You have pawns, like the Reddit chat rooms are pawns fighting each other a lot of times, but then you get rooks and bishops in there, like with developer posts, and that changes. A single post from Luke Dash Jr. seems to open up the floodgates, and those sorts of things are significant actions that have to be attended to. So there's, going back to the toolbox concept, there's a lot of different tools for a lot of different scenarios that have to be played out.
Do you think, for example, as I've heard other people tell me, that the Bitcoin Classic democratic voting tool that they are using, so that you can put your vote on the chart and say whether you like a proposal, you dislike a proposal, or an option or something. Do you think that is part of it? Because it was created at the height of the debate and seems to be very central to the idea that the Bitcoin is not a democracy, and that we don't want it to be a democracy. And how that debate turned out, because it wasn't like true voting. It wasn't like what we vote on gets enforced in the code. There's still obviously just a developer between us and that. And so can't really compel that. But the mere presence of it seemed to incite a whole nother level of vitriol everywhere. And I was like, that was such a strong response that I was like, wow, I don't know if I should do this, if I should participate in this, because I don't understand it well enough. And it seems to be that sounds like what you were talking about right there with causing the bigger conflict.
And I'll admit ignorance on this one. I don't know a whole lot about the voting mechanism in Classic. I think I understand just an overview of it, but if normally I would say that if there's something that comes out that attracts a lot of negative attention and gets a lot of that vitriol that you're talking about, chances are that's something that if there's a good number of people that are playing in this social engineering phase, that's what they don't want. The louder and angrier they get, those are the things that they want to steer people away from. And if it's something like bringing more of a decentralized, democratized approach to capital, I think that's what the end state is, to try to avoid or try to slow down the approach to that. This whole debate seems like it's just delaying the inevitable of, I don't see Bitcoin going away. I don't see any of the other altcoins being just disappeared, but it's going to take some time, and because we're in completely uncharted territories. I think there's a lot of similarities to, at least the American Revolution, where we're getting into territory that we don't know what the hell we're doing, really, because no one's ever done it before. So we're just making stuff up as we go along based on a global consensus that we're trying to hold together.
I shared the links in the chat. If you can check them out.
Yeah, I have a question then about kind of the big picture. If because I agree, we're getting into all kinds of territory that we just don't know anything about. So I mean, it seems like you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, right? I mean, you had that time where you just couldn't get enough of it, and when we all do and are still going through it. So what is it? But also, I mean, your article makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of, it would be hard to imagine the government or anyone anyone in power not being upset about something like this. So then, what is it that keeps you an enthusiast when you know that it's being attacked on all sides?
I think it's that inevitability factor. I think one of the first things I realized once I found out about Bitcoin and I found out about Tor, and I just wanted to understand what the dark web was. And once I understood what's going on back there, I'm like, this is never going away. This is a complete Pandora's box. It's never going to be closed. It's just like the internet, and you can't undo this. So once I understood that, then it's just a matter of, all right, well, what technologies will this converge with next? And the scope of that has me excited enough to, I don't care about the block size debate, because I know in 1 year from now we're going to be talking about whatever other manufactured crisis is coming along the way, and but some at the same time, the people who are playing around with this stuff like we are right now are going to be doing much better off than those who are just finding out what the hell is Bitcoin. Like that sounds stupid. That's fake. That's fake internet money. Why would I want that?
Exactly.
Magic, you mean?
It's magic. It's magic internet money.
Magic money.
So getting into a little bit of the tinfoil hat stuff on the chat while you guys were going, but yeah, people were talking about how governments are stupid and incompetent, and they can't hope to pull off some types of things like this. And I was telling them that, like, look, this is part of the plan. Like, it's like a smart comedian, playing a fool. Like, this is, for example, like Cheech and Chong or Ashton Kutcher. Like, these are incredibly smart people playing fools, right, on TV. So I'd like to get your opinion on that and what you think, because you've been inside the belly of the beast per se, right, as it was, and so you've seen the competence that goes around, the techniques deployed, the toolboxes created, and this stuff. This is high level stuff. They've been doing this for a long time, right? This is not any type of. This is the farthest from stupidity or ignorance. So I'd like to get your opinion on that, Blake.
I would, like I said, I would be surprised if every nation around the world doesn't have a team of really intelligent people focused on nothing but Bitcoin. Whether or not they're actively participating, I would be surprised if they're not also actively participating in some way. But like at my level, we got much different things to worry about. Like at the level I was at, just at the tactical and operational level on the ground and all the hot spots around the world. Now, it's interesting that the article I wrote on using cryptocurrencies in unconventional warfare, that's not really in play, and that's an indicator to me that governments aren't really using it to their benefit, at least not openly.
Why?
I would say that some are, but
no, I just mean why haven't like the elite military groups that are on deck hopped on it and published some papers and gotten on top of that, because it seems like it would be useful to them.
I didn't see the top of the mountain. I was at one of the base camps down at the bottom. So I don't know, I don't have much insight on what happens at the puzzle palaces down in D.C. or at any of the other higher level.
Oh, so you think it's politics rather than some sort of utility question?
Politics are always because what happens is you get a major at a special forces company, writes up a paper saying this would be a really great tool that we could use overseas, and it would be a really powerful tool. Like if I was going into, say, Iraq again, and we had access to digital currencies that we could pay contractors with, and they knew that they had access to a legitimate source of revenue that was uncensorable.
And you had a permanent record of those transactions.
Exactly.
To report.
Exactly.
Right, because that was
rather
than the losses, right? Was bad record keeping, right?
Yep. And huge piles of cash are much easier to disappear. Well, can be. But anyway, like the politics is that, someone down at the lower levels putting out a paper saying, "Hey, we need to use Bitcoin for doing this." They're not going to get promoted anymore, more than likely. That's sad. That's just it's the nature of the business. There's a lot of
that's sad. That's exactly the person they should promote.
And they might get promoted. Like they might get scarfed up. Like a lot of times, the smartest ones end up going other places. Like there's always other places to go in the system still. There's a bunch of different agencies that you can go to, but a lot of times guys just get out if they get sick of the politics, and that was part of it for me. But yeah,
I remember the question I had before I even got on here. Let me ask you this one. This is the one I thought of when I read your article. Is how do you know that Satoshi Nakamoto isn't a military psyops program from the get-go, and that all the conflict is the exact opposite of that, because the conflict is people fighting the program, like the Matrix or something, perfect reality, but they control the perfect reality.
My instincts are that Satoshi was probably one of those really hyper intelligent teams that were hired to do something, and then they came across this potential solution and pushed it out into the open under a pseudonym. That makes a lot of sense to me. As far as what they're doing now, your guess is as good as mine on that one. I don't know. I think it's probably a good thing that Satoshi is a pseudonymous person, because I don't.
For sure.
That'd be just too easy to play with.
Exactly.
If it was revealed it was a military thing, would that change anybody's mind?
Well, for some, it's an idea that can't be killed, though. I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I personally, I don't want to throw too much speculation into the show and such, but personally, I said this before. I think that Bitcoin was definitely created by a rogue group in the CIA, either the CIA or the NSA. But I think it was more the CIA, because inside, and even pretty much where you were, Blake. I mean, inside where those people are, they can see the effects that money has. They understand that they get taught about the Federal Reserve. They know about the Federal Reserve. I mean, I'm sure more people in the military, at least in the CIA, know about the Federal Reserve than regular average Joe. So they can see the views. They can see what's coming, right? They put the puzzle pieces together. They can see what's coming. They saw that where the end goal was. They saw where the end game was, and that's another thing they have is access to they have access to information that could potentially. They have access to potential. Damning information from the government. Like if the government or these shadow entities, the shadow governments had these insidious plans, the people would be able to find them would be in the CIA or the NSA. And so I think that is most likely what happened. There was a positive rogue group who saw where we were going, saw where the dollar was headed, saw where the nation was headed, and created this. Now, that's just, of course, complete speculation. But the thing is that whoever created this, Satoshi, they knew that all you needed was a little seed. If you planted the seed just right with just the right incentives, then it could grow. And that's where I think that's why I think governments, if the governments are not looking at it, and somebody mentioned in the chat, Horace mentioned that people, there's probably governments and banks are not looking at Bitcoin. It's just too small. The market cap is tiny, and there's only 3 transactions per second. No, they're still looking at it because they've seen the evolution of the web. They saw how fast that kind of stuff can go and evolve, and so I think that that's more than like what happened. Blake, did we lose you?
Oh, I think we lost him.
Oh no, the NSA, man! As soon as we start talking about CIA and NSA, dude.
I feel like too many secrets.
Done. Too many secrets.
That was great, though.
That was awesome. I hope Blake comes back. He said that if he did have problems, he'd try to get back in.
He was challenging my thoughts. That's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Bitcoin space.
I just with respect to the government being behind Bitcoin. Well, I mean, maybe it was a rogue government group, which would kind of be a good thing. But even if it was a malicious government group, malicious towards the people, that is, I mean, the Navy, I think it was, made Tor. I mean, they sometimes develop good stuff, and they don't maybe intend for it to be used as good as it ends up being used. But yeah, I guess they can.
Yeah, it's a shame that
they have good stuff.
He left. I wanted to get his opinion, on some of the block size debate, actual block size debate stuff. What he actually thought, because that was going to be, the next article and stuff that we were going to get into. Oh, Blake's coming back. Let's see if we can get him in here. Technology, man. Did the NSA get you, Blake? What's going on, man?
It's scary. It's scary sometimes.
Dude, I've gotten shut down too. It gets crazy sometimes.
It's. I think that's part of the psychological games, honestly. Like the fact that that's even entering my brain, that it's something to worry about when weird things happen with my tech. It sucks, but what are you gonna do?
It's kind of funny.
Sorry, I missed what you're saying.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, it's just funny. We still got people like, let's see, what's this guy's name? He's been constantly in the chat calling everybody a tinfoil hat. It's Tom. Tom. I tell you, Tom, a lot of people think like you, man. A lot of people think that people like us and people who talk about shadow governments and stuff like that, and maybe even some of the stuff that Blake is saying, a lot of people think that's kind of tinfoil hat stuff and things like that. But remember, that's the idea. They want the whole even phrase or notion of conspiracy theory to be completely demonized. Like, that's part of the plan. If you watch these documentaries, you can see that this is what they do. They set up a social structure in which anything
you keep saying they set up a social structure.
Right. So the people in power, right? The people we elect.
The people in power, assuming the people in power are also collaborating.
So
I'll add a quick caveat. People who are capable of influencing with power.
Yeah. So namely, who I'm talking about, namely Dustin, is the Morgans, right? The Rothschilds, these people who set up the banking systems and things like that. They're the ones who build societies. They're the ones who fund wars. They're the ones who have done this for the past few hundred years. Now, these people, they set up these social constructs, these rules and these laws that allow anybody that tries to say something outside of the social norm to be immediately demonized by everybody in the social norm. So it literally almost patronizes or gathers all these people together to use them as their own people against the human.
But humans do that naturally. Think of holidays.
Well,
everybody likes Christmas. Everybody likes Christmas.
Again, and even that,
it's the wrong day of the year. It happens to be the wrong.
You must know that even a bunch of these holidays are designed by corporations a lot of the times and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they invented Christmas like hundreds of years ago.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the longest day of winter. Let's all give each other gifts. Dustin, every single year, and any holiday that you don't like, I beat you up over.
So check this out, man. You got to look at history, right? 200 years ago, there wasn't this whole huge freaking scrambling for Christmas, despite what the movies try to tell you, right? Back in those times, there was scrambling of Christmas trees, Christmas gifts, economic booms of all of these shopping stores and shopping malls and things like that, right? There wasn't that type of it just didn't exist. Same with Valentine's Day, and even diamond rings didn't even freaking exist. As a way of giving somebody, as proposing to somebody prior to the diamond mines and those being bought and closed down and used to create false scarcity. This is all just standard social construct creation. So, but anyway, I don't want to get too far off of the topic here. So let's get back. So Blake, what I'd like to do, man, I'm just going to answer. I'd like to read a couple of questions. So first question is from Dave. Do you think that it's important that regulation should be ignored? Well, let me just get your view on regulations, then, and maybe Blake a little bit. What do you think about the current regulation landscape in Bitcoin? If you could just kind of give us your thoughts on that real quick.
I don't like it, but there's bound to be some sort of regulation. And I think I'm a libertarian / conservative. I'm a believer in limited government scope. And yeah, like what they're capable of regulating is a drastically more different question than what they're going to try to regulate. And I think right now they've got bigger fish to fry. And,
For sure.
I don't know what's going to happen with regulation though.
Cool. Yeah, and it's true. That's well said. Basically, they're going to try to regulate everything. I mean, they're going to try, just like the whole Apple debate that's going on right now, right, with Apple and FBI. FBI claiming that this is just this one little incident we're just going to break this phone with. But of course, this will set a precedent in the judicial system for years to come, like everything else does in the judicial system. One court winning is like, can be have consequences for hundreds of years, because they're literally the FBI is pointing to an act made in the 1700s that's allowing them to I can't remember if it's the 1700s or 1800s, but it's like multi-hundred-year-old act that they're trying to use against Apple to try to get them to create this backdoor. So it's they're gonna use this so they're gonna use this one case and say, look, it's just this one case, one place. But then they're going to use that same technology to, again, bring it up. Because once they do it once, they're going to want to do it again. And that's what always happens. And so, it's just this big, huge privacy fight. Maybe just you could quickly weigh in on that. See what do you think about this whole...
I think the best solution is to innovate around whatever roadblocks that are coming up. And I think it's already happening. Like someone mentioned Purse.io. That's a perfect example. It's like all the tools are out there. You can't really stop people from using tools that they already know how to make themselves. So it's Prometheus gave the fire away. What are you gonna do?
Thanks for listening to episode 113. Remember to check out this week's show notes at youmeandbtc.com and leave us a comment. You can also find more from the Bitcoin News Show at blab.im/TheOneVortex or by following @TheOneVortex on Twitter. We'll see you next Thursday.